Good morning, everyone. I hope you started very vibrant and dynamic conference. I'm honored to be part of this panel. I appreciate the conference organizers, especially Dr. Alan Dilani and Dr. Faridun Rahmani, for their clear and timely communication. My presentation is based on my research on dual immersion education. I have 20 minutes plus, and I try to be very concise. My agenda for presenting my research is as you see. First, I explain shortly why I chose this topic, my objectives, a brief definition of dual immersion education, which might be a new topic for some of you, and next few slides will be on my research, which will end with some recommendations. Why I chose this topic? The topic I have chosen to look at is two-way immersion education. This topic is personal to me. Many of you might connect to it as well. As a Kurd, I grew up not being allowed to become literate or even speak in my mother tongue in school and public. My family taught me my language in fear of persecution. I am so fascinated by and deeply respect attempt in education to raise students as bilingual and bicultural rather than force all students to only learn in one official state language. I believe it is extremely important topic. I wish I would see your face to see if you have the same feeling as I have. As I researched in the United States, I learned that there are some schools offering heritage language along with English such as Spanish and Chinese, and very few schools offering Arabic and Armenian. I also learned that this model is effective and has great results. There is an implication for policy and economy as well. If two-way immersion education model has implication for non-native speakers student, why not for Kurdish students? I'm sure you all agree that language is so closely tied to our sense of self, our identity, our worldview, and how comfortable we feel with who we are. When the education system respects biliteracy, it is respecting people's differences, and that adds to students' well-being and future prospects as members of society. The topic I chose is very personal to me. Many of you might connect to it as well. As a Kurd, I grew up not being allowed to become literate or even speak in my mother tongue in school and public. My family taught me my language in fear of persecution. I am so fascinated by and deeply respect attempts in education to raise students as bilingual and bicultural rather than force all students to only learn in one official state language. I believe it is extremely important topic. I wish I would see your faces to see if you have the same feeling. As I researched in the United States, I learned that there are some schools offering heritage languages along with English such as Spanish, Chinese, and very few schools offering Arabic and Armenian. I also learned that this model is effective and has great results. There is an important for policies and economy as well. If two-way immersion education model has implications for non-native speakers students, why not for Kurdish students? I am sure you all agree that language is so closely tied to our sense of self, our identity, our worldview, and how comfortable we feel with who we are. When the education system respects biliteracy, it is respecting people's differences, and that adds to students' well-being and future prospects. By end of this presentation, you will find some educational approaches to endorse Kurdish language to your school system in your host countries to be used in academia. You will be able to identify one thing you can do to better serve Kurdish children to learn or keep their language and culture. You will be more aware of the importance of getting involved with schools to prevent distinction of Kurdish language among third or even second generation of Kurds. In order to better understand my research, you might need the definition of dual immersion. Dual immersion education is a form of biliteracy education in which students are taught literacy and content in two languages, including native speaking students and native speakers of a foreign language. Dual immersion program generally starts in preschools or first grade and extend for at least 5 years, although many continue into middle school and high school. In dual immersion school, one language does not replace the other. The goal of dual immersion programs are to develop bilingualism, biliteracy, academic achievement, and cross-cultural competencies for all students. This type of education creates an effective family-school partnership and involvement of families. Dual immersion creates a generation who are academically literate in both languages. Students who speak two languages, based on research, have a longer attention span and stronger executive functioning. And the model permanently alters neurological structure and slow down the decline in cognitive functioning, memory, and executive functioning as we age. I started working on two-way immersion education with families as the focus since 2014. I have done some action research and continue working on it. What is the problem? Considering the fact that school-age children spend a large amount of their daily lives in learning environment such as school, immigrant parents often fear that their children will lose their mother tongue and cultural heritage. There is also a scary about language distinctions. World language dying off rapidly. Of the estimated 7,000 languages spoken in the world today, linguists says near half are in danger of extinction and are likely to disappear in this century. In fact, they are now phasing out of use and a rate of about one every 2 weeks. It is really scary. We don't want to be one of them. Besides those, majority of the immigrants' parents, including Kurdish family, have trouble communicating their questions or giving input about what their children needed to educators because their language of new country is limited, which prevent them from parental involvement in a school. If a school provides their language to these families, this family will not struggle this much. I had some purpose for this research. I wanted to investigate dual immersion education system and its effect on children. I wanted to explore inter-constituents relations such as parental involvement and social impact of such a system. And finally, I wanted to learn about necessity of dual immersion education as a model for Kurdish children in schools, both in the countries they reside and in Kurdistan. That's correct that I had some purpose, but what was my questions, how I wanted to start? I wanted to know how dual immersion education can affect children and academic achievement of children. I wanted to know what is the level of parental and family involvement at the dual immersion schools. How this model can be effective for Kurdish children to keep their heritage, culture, and language. I started with reading a lot. Some reviews of literature, newspaper, news, and countless sources are available for benefit of dual immersion, conducting dual immersion, increasing family involvement, and uh, some on the programs in dual immersion school for some populations such as I said, Hispanic, Armenian, Arab, Chinese, and about but there is an entirely absent data for Kurdish language. Just to name some of the literatures, many researchers such as Colon in 2018, Virginia, Allianz and Rodriguez, Gonzalez, Mormon, Soto Manning, Turney and Cayo, and so many of them. They found benefit of dual immersion programs, advantage of family involvement, and how to be in service of student achievement by promoting biliteracy. Then I designed my instruments, data collection procedures. I identified my settings, my population, and the way I wanted to utilize my interviews, observation, document reviews, and existing data. The setting of this study were two-way models, 50 and 50, because there are different models like 10%, 90%, 30%, 70%, but this model that I chose was 50-50. So dual immersion elementary schools with almost 500 students, one of them DC, and another one was RDW with about 900 students, which serves students from kindergarten to 5th grade in two different counties in California. One was Spanish English, another one was Armenian English. For my interviews, a total of 9 interviews with four parents, 4 teachers, 1 principal. The interviews provided a clear family involvement perceptions of teachers and parents. It also helped me to understand what activities offered by school or teachers motivated those parents to become engaged in their child's school and contribute to their success and positive attitude toward school. For my document reviews, I reviewed some documents of parent workshop, sign-ins sheet, and those revealed which activities were attracting and engaging more parents to schools. I conducted 2 observations. 2 observations of parent workshop. They gave me an in-depth view of culture of the schools along with the level of achievement, relationship between families, and parental involvement in different workshops. I'm gonna skip many details. I don't want to make you tired. I know you're waiting for the result. What was the result of months of data collection? I learned about parent involvement, motivation, reasons behind their involvement, teachers' special activities, easiness of communication in such schools. I'm gonna mostly focus on what I found as emergent themes. We will shortly discuss their implication for our Kurdish communities. I found about influence of co-ethnic peers, pay respect to the heritage, positive attitude toward their language, significant influence of school family engagement and partnership and involvement, culturally relevant, responsive educational activities. What are the implications of those emergent themes and findings for us, for Kurdish children, for you researcher, for you leaders, and for you parents? If you are an academic investigator and you see that research shows positive attitude toward heritage language plays a role, then let's research Kurdish families' perspective on this issue. Let's contact your policymakers to establish a program in your city for a dual immersion programs in which one of the language is Kurdish. Continue this research by replicating in another state or country, the country that you came to this conference for. Use quantitative research to be able to generalize for entire Kurdish community. Publish area of your study in Kurdish, English 50-50. Try to publish in Kurdish and English together, or Kurdish and Swedish together. If you are a parent or are in close relationship with some of the parents in your community, tell them about the issue. If research shows that influence of co-ethnic peers are important, then let's set guidance for families to socializing with local Kurdish language speaking families. Participate in events organized by local Kurdish communities. Send Kurdish music to schools event. Encourage your children to watch TV in Kurdish language. Encouraging your children to interact with relatives and friends abroad through social media. Reading to your child in a regular basis and having reading materials in Kurdish at home. If you are an investor or entrepreneur, I know some of you are, so establish a private educational Kurdish institution to teach both languages. Invite Kurdish native speaker educator to teach Kurdish language to your children, and participate and embark in your children's school and spend money in that area. There are much more into this research, and there are so many things that we can discuss. I wish I was there so I could hear you and I would answer some questions, but I'm gonna finish it here because I think my time is over. Your ticket out the door is, I want you, everyone, to identify one thing you can do to better serve this population, one strategy or one feedback. I value your input, your feedback, and your support. If you want that, please contact me. My emails are there, and you always can call me or send me some message. And I hope that I would be able to help in that regard by showing the importance of two-way immersion education for student success and preservation of Kurdish language and identity. Thank you.